In case you haven't been keeping track, Anthem will be out in just a little over 2 months on February 22nd, 2019. That's the official release date, at least. Those who subscribe to Origin Access Premier get to play the game a week earlier on February 15th, 2019. EA pulled a similar scheme with Battlefield 5, which didn't sit well with many people, and I imagine it won't sit well with Anthem players as well. Either way, the point is that the game is coming out pretty soon, and we are already starting to see BioWare run tests for their upcoming title. Most recently, the studio hosted a closed alpha test on PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One that ran from December 8th to December 9th, 2018. For those who don't know what a closed alpha entails, people can sign up to participate in one, and the game company will eventually reach out to a select number of people to partake in it for the sole intent of stress testing the game from a wide array of circumstances in a controlled environment, with the whole point being to use feedback and data obtained from the alpha as a means to tweak and improve the game as it nears launch. Now, as a condition of being allowed to participate in a game's closed alpha, companies will usually have players read and sign a non-disclosure agreement in return. The reason for this is simple. During the alpha stages of development, a game is simply not representative of the final product. It's bound to have a wide array of technical issues and gameplay quirks, many of which are intended to be fixed or rebalanced based on feedback early testers provide or data obtained from their gameplay sessions. And the last thing game studios want is for marketing to suffer as a result of people getting the wrong idea from aspects of a game's incomplete build that haven't been fully fleshed out yet. Closed alpha tests such as these are strictly intended for the acquisition of feedback and data for potential improvements, not for marketing, which is why game companies are so strict about ensuring testers don't give their impressions and only focus on helping improve the game. It's only after a studio feels confident about the state and stability of a game's build, or as a game's release date looms closer, that they'll begin hosting open betas for people to publicly discuss what they think about the game, for them to get a taste of it, and for them to be able to provide feedback on a much wider scale for final adjustments. Now, one alpha tester apparently didn't get the memo, as despite agreeing to EA stipulations, they had the bright idea to take to Twitch in an attempt to stream the game. There's a video currently making the rounds, clipped directly from Twitch, in which we see streamer Smoke booting up the Anthem alpha, but as the game is shown loading and connecting, his Origin launcher is shown to crash out of the blue before he's booted out of the game session. Then, when he reboots the Origin launcher and logs back in to run the game again, it's revealed that his entire Origin games library has been wiped out. Now, there is currently some debate whether this user actually had any other games beyond the Anthem alpha, whether the notion that EA went out of their way to delete all games bought using the publisher's launcher is a misconception. After all, if you look at the icons on this user's desktop, it's possible to see that the Origin launcher was one of his most recent installations, and that the only game shortcut that comes from Origin here is the Anthem closed alpha. All other games featured on the desktop are from other launchers like Steam, Battle.net, Epic Launcher, and what have you. Not to mention that if you check out the user's profile on Origin, you can see that his account hasn't earned any Origin points or achievements, suggesting they haven't played any other games on Origin. What this means is that in all likelihood, this user only downloaded Origin very recently for the sole purpose of playing the Anthem alpha, so we actually don't know for sure if EA is going out of their way to delete games people had bought prior to their NDA violation. What we do know, however, is that the Anthem alpha is no longer listed on this user's library of games, which means that EA did indeed swiftly track down this alpha tester shortly after the stream went up and cut off his access to the game. It's pretty scary how quickly they were able to lock this user down, but then again, not many people are dumb enough to live stream a game's closed alpha after signing an NDA, and there's only a select crowd that has access to the alpha, so it's probably not very difficult for EA and BioWare to keep an eye out for a handful of Anthem live streams that may occasionally crop up on Twitch and track down violators. Now, regardless of whether this was really a case of EA nuking the NDA violators' games library on their Origin account, or if this was EA only cutting off access to Anthem's alpha on an account that had no other games in its library, with the latter being the most likely scenario, the point still remains that the user was asking for consequences. An NDA is a contractual obligation, one that anyone who participated in Anthem's alpha had to sign and agree to, so any repercussions that stem from a breach of contract is entirely on the user's end. Hell, it doesn't take much to read through the NDA contract and find the portion stipulating that EA accounts are subject to termination if terms of agreement for Anthem's alpha are violated. In the case of this particular NDA violation, EA actually seems to have acted more generous than usual, as it doesn't look like the streamer's account was suspended or terminated, judging by how they were still able to log back in to find that the alpha had been removed from their library. Furthermore, EA's General User Agreement stipulates that instead of account termination, the company may also issue a warning, suspend or alter aspects of one's access to EA services, remove or revoke entitlements at an account or device level, or remove or delete any content that's in violation of an agreement, with that last one being what EA seems to have resorted to in this case, from what I can tell. Now, given how seriously NDA agreements are stipulated, given that they are legally binding contracts, I'd imagine that EA could resort to a lawsuit if they really wanted, but given how little damage the user seems to have done in the long run, this is likely a case that won't be worth pursuing legally. This individual managed to get as far as the main menu before they were shut down, so their breach didn't end up amounting to much. So yeah, the lesson to be learned here is that if you ever end up being chosen to participate in a game's closed alpha, read through any terms and conditions or contracts before you accept and take them seriously. Game companies have a good reason for wanting to keep a tight lid on their unfinished games, so respect that and understand that contract violations are no laughing matter. I may not be a fan of what EA stands for as a publisher, but in this case, they were very clear in highlighting reasonable guidelines for Anthem's alpha, as well as any potential consequences of breaching these guidelines to testers. So nobody's to blame for what happened here except for the end user. Granted, I do understand that there are some fears about game publishers having more control over our ownership of games than ever before, particularly where the digital distribution of games via proprietary launchers are concerned. The fact that the likes of EA have the power to make purchased products or accounts in which digital purchases are housed disappear at the push of a button is certainly a disconcerting notion. For example, there was that one infamous instance in which a user's Origin account got deleted for no reason, and he had to jump through all kinds of hoops to restore his account and its contents. EA wouldn't give this user the time of day until after this Reddit thread began to blow up, garnering close to 150,000 upvotes by the time the dust settled. But I do think that's a conversation for another time, as in this instance we're looking at a clear-cut case of some moron who couldn't follow basic, justified guidelines and rightfully got his access revoked. For good measure, Anthem's executive producer Mark Dara took to Twitter to address what an alpha entails, stating the following: "So, the alpha's on, and I'm seeing some chatter about connectivity issues to the servers. Two things. One, this is one of the primary purposes of the test. Two, you're actually in violation of your NDA if you're publicly discussing issues you're having." So there you have it. If you have any intentions of participating in future closed alphas, save yourself a world of pain, just have fun playing the game early, and if you can, let the developers know what they can do to make the game better for the final launch. These are one man's thoughts and opinions anyway. I'd love to hear what your take is on this situation in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content and would like to support this channel directly, consider donating on Patreon. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.